said morning. Thank you.
All right, let us kick off. So we've got quite a packed day today. So I've got an agenda that I want us to go through. But in terms of just the expectation, the agenda is a very light one. But I think more importantly about it, it's an embedded agenda, not agenda, but agenda item. So the things we're going to talk about today are not your black and white kind of stuff, but there are those things that I want you to embrace and for you to be consistently mindful of. And those are the words that I'm going to use here because it's very important how you see how what we're going to do today really drives our journey. Because I'm not probably going to say anything new that you've never heard in your career, whether you've gone through or you came here through the traditional route, you came here through the CIMA route, or you came here through the ACCA route. What I'm going to talk about today, it's nothing new. And that's why I'm saying that it's more of embedding what you know and how you need to use it. So it's not going to be a typical technical lecture. In terms of the technical, if you need to revise, it might be helpful 100%. We will then work through some of those technical theory, strategy model later on in the development and also at your own leisure using the CTA videos. But what I just want you to get away today, it's why we need to be mindful of the things we are mindful of today. The why is so important. And it is very interesting because it seems this is where Psycha is also going. They want you to be present, to put it lightly, or to put it strictly rather. They want you to be present. Interestingly, in the APC 2024, the one that was recently written, they even, in the welcome email, the CEO said, do not do extensive research on these companies. What I've given you will be important. I was like, that's a very strong tone that Psycha is setting because they're saying and changing the mindset that we have a lot of candidates that think that success comes from pre-research work, that it comes from going out there and bringing what is out there into the case study. Whereas what you are really expected to do is to be analytical and to have a strong commercial awareness. You need to be able to think things through. And therefore, our agenda today is going to focus on two of the enabling competencies. One, critical thinking, and two, business acumen. You cannot divorce those two. They are always married to each other, and you need to think about them that way. Because your mind will critically probe things. But for those things to be probed and to make sense, you need to have some level of commercial awareness, understanding of the organization you're dealing with, and its external environment. So that is our agenda. That is what I want you to think about today. That do I understand the level of expectation here? So once you have gone through the background, time and again, you need to be thinking about how am I applying my critical thinking? How am I bringing my business acumen into this? Some of you are senior managers, some of you are in strategy division, some of you are senior finance managers, so CFO, and I'm sure day by day, you will need to talk to either bankers, talk to your boards, talk to your senior management about the things that concern the company and the things that really drive the performance of the company. It is not necessarily general stuff that, oh, there's a new president. If in America, someone will then ask you, so what? How will this inform our engagement in this board meeting? How will this affect our thinking in our management committees and so on? So the things that you will need to always bring are the things that are relevant for this particular company. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And that's why I'm saying that it becomes a set of embedded set of techniques, set of values, set of frameworks that we're going to highlight. But I'm not therefore going to talk in detail about the strategy tools, what they do, and so on. But I'm going to talk about them in the context of how do you then use them in order to achieve or demonstrate rather critical thinking and business acumen. And as we go, either in this particular session or even in the course of the program, I'm going to highlight some of the things that happened or what we saw in the 2024 APC, because I really found it quite interesting. It felt more business oriented than most of the case studies that we've seen. And I think for me, it just then highlighted quite a lot in terms of how I would want you to think as my candidates and how I want you to use that kind of thinking in terms of ensuring your success. I suspected that people that are very business oriented will have loved last year's paper because the technical needed some level of thinking. There was even a task that asked candidates to say, what do you think about our business model? Do you think it's sustainable? I was like, oh, wow, that's a very, very interesting kind of question to see in the APC, because now it meant that one needed to then say, wait, what is the business model? What are its triggers? What are its levers? And how does it interact with the external environment? And can I be able to interrogate it using my critical thinking skills as well as my business acumen? So that's why we are here. And that's what I want you to get out of today's session. So let me just then jump into the agenda. So the agenda will therefore be broken down into one. When we say business acumen, for me, it's crucial that as much as there are different thinking, that we find that common ground. We find that alignment in terms of, oh, this is my view. This is what they're saying. It's their view. This is someone else's view. But what are the commonalities that we can take? And therefore, when we assess you and we then say, no, you didn't demonstrate business acumen here, what do we really mean? And once we are there, it means that if you are given that feedback by either myself or part of my marketing team, it means that you will know what is the problem and therefore what you need to work with. And that's my objective here today. That's what I need to go tell my academic head, that I am at a position where I can confirm that your candidates understand what is business acumen. So in emphasizing the 9-point competency framework, and you give them feedback that there was a lack of demonstration of business acumen, they will not come back to you and say, what do you mean? But they will understand what is that. So yes, whether you've done whatever route you've done, we are going to align today in terms of how we look at it and therefore what we expect from you. Then number 2, we are going to revisit the strategy analysis tool, specifically the Porter's model, the SWOT model, the 6 capital model, as well as the PASTEL model. So we are going to revisit them. We are not going to teach them. We are going to revisit them so that you can understand how to use them. And we are going to make reference to the task that we've got here, because the idea is to say that, all right, I needed to prepare a couple of slides for my CFO, but how could I have used those strategy models to help me get there? Then one of the candidates last year asked me, they're like, no, in our organization, when we do our strategy, we use the strategy canvas. Should you not be also focusing on it? And I was like, for me, it doesn't really matter. If you have other models that you know, especially for some of you that are coming from the CIMA model, from the CIMA route, because we used to do a lot of models there, your unsolved, your 4Ps, and all these other models. So all those models, they are valuable tools. But for me, it is a matter of why. Why do you need to use them? Why do you need to get their relevance in a particular context? So it is not that the ones that I've chosen are the most brilliant. It is just they are easier to align. They don't necessarily require anyone in this room to go and do additional work of saying, where do they come from? Because these are the ones that are generally subscribed or prescribed for different professional roles. The others, yes, they are relevant. You could work for a company that continues to apply them, and that is brilliant. But also, it is because of the nature of the task, that the nature of the task, they are very application driven, and they're not necessarily going to require you to apply those models, but the framework and thinking in those models will help you to consider different aspects. Even the strategic canvas, if you're to use it in your team, it might therefore add value. Then we're going to talk about business acumen in the context of the APC, to say that if there is a competency requiring you to demonstrate business acumen, what do we want? And that's why in that reflection too, I said, how were you thinking about business acumen in the context of this task? For me, that is a very important question. So I'll want to hear or review your response to that, to say, how were you thinking about business acumen here? Then we are going to review the task, time permitting, and also just to say, now that we've got those strategy models, what kind of template can you use in order to unpack a background such as VLA? You have read it, you've analyzed it, so what's next? So that is our agenda. Quite straightforward, quite light. Anything you want to check in at this point? The break will be a 30 minutes break. It'll be somewhere in between them. Going once, going twice. All right, no questions. All right, so there is this extract that I've then taken from your face note. So your face note there has got this. And remember what the face note is meant to do. The face note is meant to guide your overall thinking in terms of the relevance of each phase in the program. And it even goes in detail in terms of how you need to be thinking and preparing for each and every class. So the face note is available now. And the idea is for you to prepare for it. Whether you prepare for it in advance, whether you prepare for it in the morning, the idea is don't come empty-handed in each and every session. It's got even dates to guide you about what you're going to cover. And one of the things that I then looked at, it then spoke about one, the objective of today's session. We are going, or we are, I'm required to help you master the case study context by exposing you to companies specializing in the construction tower cranes using the background of VLA, and explain how business acumen and mastering the contents of the case study as professional skills assist in responding to technical tasks. That is that. That is what I've been asked to do today. Do you have mastery over the what? Over the case study. The how is then going to be a matter of how I choose. So I chose to then give you a task to work with at the beginning. So that task, it is going to link to the objectives that we need to to confirm. To say that how can you demonstrate mastery over the context? Now, if we are to say that, sure.
Sorry, I don't know if you can see my hand. It's
I'm sharing my screen. I am. It's red. It's not appearing. What are you seeing?
No, you are sharing.
It's fine now.
It's fine now. What I wanted to ask.
Sure. Go for it. Sorry, Bevan.
I downloaded my Phase Note quite a long time ago. That still included the WhatsApp group. And afterwards, someone mentioned in one of the classes that the Phase Note was changed to take out the WhatsApp group because that's not going to be used anymore.
That's not the Phase Note. That's the welcome.
Is it the welcome or the Phase Note?
Yeah, the Phase Note, remember, is the one that deals with just the technical. It doesn't deal with the admin aspects.
So the Phase Note was the Phase Note hasn't changed.
No, the Phase Note is still intact, 100%.
Okay,
so it deals with the technical, yes.
Okay, now I just wanted to make sure that I'm relying on the latest and not.
No. The Phase Note is the technical one. So this is where, so here, if you're not understanding anything, don't go to the admin, come straight to us, because the admin don't deal with the contents here.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, so this is all technical. Yeah, so that's the difference between the two. So if you have any query, guidance that you seek, you can either reach to me, reach to the other professional team members, or to Pedi himself. That's where you get any guidance and assistance there. Right? Okay, Nomfundo, you're good now. Yes. You're good with the...
Hi, Rendani, can you hear me?
Yes.
The Phase Note, is it accessible to everyone, or do we have to make the payments first for this one?
The Phase Note, I think it's accessible to registered candidates. Yes, sure. So how can we manage random requirements that are communicated during the week? All right, let me park that. I don't want, we'll discuss that later. I want to hear the random part, but I'm on a time. So then the next thing, what are you required to do? So the requirement is to download the pre-release and understand your company, full stop. That is it. Understand VLA. Do you understand VLA? And that is where now you can start informally engaging with your colleague. What does I understand the company mean to you? Does it mean the same thing as to Rendani? Does it mean the same thing as to Linda? If you say, I understand the company, are we really talking about the same thing? Are we really talking about the same thing? Because I could be saying, I understand the company because I understand the industry it operates in. But someone could be saying, I understand its customers. I understand its suppliers. I understand so on and so on. So what does understanding mean? For those that have gone through the traditional route, they will understand that, or they will recall that as auditors, one of the pre-engagement activities that you need to do is to obtain an understanding of an entity. So they have got a framework that they can use to do that. And the auditing standard even goes as far as saying, if you understand it, you'll understand its internal control processes. You'll understand its environment. You'll understand its financial system, its processes, its people, and so on and so on, such that you can even do a risk assessment on it. That's what an audit person might tell you. And again, this is where you start thinking, maybe I need an audit person here because they think this way. So understanding a company can be broad, but we need to land and say, how do I know and how do I gain comfort that I understand the company? And this is where you could start thinking about what? Start thinking about, yes, your models and saying that, but yeah, the strategic canvas tells me about creating value. It tells me about customers. It tells me about customer segmentation. It tells me about this. If I'm thinking about pastel, it says that I need to understand the environment. If I talk about, so the strategy models then start to become useful in terms of what? In terms of understanding your company. Then, what are we going to do here? Then the session will facilitate active reading of the background information. So what do we mean when we say active reading? What does that mean? How does it differ to the reading that you normally do? And that is what that screencast does. So that screencast, I'll want you to go through it, whether in this session or even after the session. So this, or what we are doing there, is what I'll expect you to do throughout, because that's, some call it active reading, some call it critical reading. I think that's what Asen uses. So when you get to engage with Asen, it will tell you you need to critically read, but we are talking about the same thing. Some call it analytical reading because you are reading and analyzing. But one thing for sure, we are not reading so that we can identify things to research. We are not research experts. We are professional accountants. And that's very important. You are not picking up triggers to go research. You are there to obtain an understanding of the company in an analytical manner. But what does that mean? Still, like, we need to land. We really need to land. So let's move forward. To assist you to engage with the information and discuss techniques that you should use to do what? To evaluate strategies. But wait, in that background, were there some strategies that were presented? Indeed, they were. All right. So what was we, or how were we supposed to evaluate those? Did we pick up some of the business risks that this company potentially faced? Did we pick up the opportunities that were available to it, such that this morning when you came in and there's a Durban opportunity, you then say, I saw it, that the board was having confidence in South Africa and looking at opening new yards in Durban and Cape Town. So that for me was no surprise, because I understood the opportunities that the board were thinking about. Then, also to understand the industry. Where does this company generate its money? We were told about where it makes its money, but did this particular project fall under there? We needed to question that. So now we are now starting to form a view to say that, oh, but did I have this when I was reading or after I've read the background? If I said I obtained the understanding of the company, was I in a position to evaluate the strategies? Was I in a position to outline their business risk and also evaluate the opportunities that were available to companies within in the industry that they operate? Then afterwards, because it's a process, following the session, you must supplement your mastery of the case study context by undertaking quality research into the construction industry. So now you are reading there, and the board is having confidence in Cape Town and Durban. What could be happening in those countries, in those particular region? That is now where research comes in. Because the research for me comes in for the things that are not specifically given in the case study background, but that could be relevant to a decision making. What opportunities? Where I'm sure some of you were not surprised when we spoke about Transnet upgrading its port facilities, because that has been publicly and widely documented in the business article in terms of the work that they're doing, entering into long-term concessions, and so on. That could have been a low-hanging fruit. So it is those kind of things to say that, all right, but they are in the construction industry. Are there any construction opportunities in Durban and Cape Town? Is Cape Town experiencing urbanization? What could that be? What is it that I need to further research that has not specifically been given in the case study? But you can only do that if you have actively read and started having blocks or questions that need to be asked by the things that are not in the case study. And one thing I want to highlight here, it is not going to be fundamentally a lot of things that are not in the case study that will expect you to go and research. And hold me here in terms of your expectation, both from a professional assessment at the end of the year and all the assessments that we're going to work with during the period. In order to consistently demonstrate your competence, we are not going to expect you to undertake extensive research to master the context and be able to demonstrate competence. So if you are reading me, this is where you need to highlight, put a tag, because I don't want any of you to come later on and I said, what did you do with the 5 days? And you said, I was busy downloading annual report. I was busy trying to understand the similar companies, because I'll say that you are missing the mark. You are missing the mark. So I'm really loving that point that Saika then put. We don't expect you to undertake extensive research. What I've given you in these documents or emails, it's sufficient. So that it's always going to be an embedded statement. And I am specifically now talking to my CIMA candidates here, because with CIMA, you have both the luxury of time and you have those models that you need to use in order to understand a 15-pager or even a 10-pager background. So you have that luxury there. And because you have 6 weeks or you have 2 months, depending on your sitting, it could have made sense to say, today, I'm just going to analyze the strategy. Tomorrow, I'm going to do risk assessment, or even on a week-by-week basis. You had that luxury. But here, you don't have the luxury of time. But I want you not to see it as a disadvantage, but I want you to embrace the fact that because I've not been given time, that means I should not be expected to do such an overkill. So I should not be expected to do such an overkill. So what am I saying? Are you saying that we can get C's with our active reading of the background? Exactly so. So, but does that mean that a candidate that goes and demonstrates more than the expectation excellence, and even goes and analyze competitor information and bring them in the case study in a practical manner, are you not going to give that candidate a credit? Oh no, I will even give that candidate an HLA indicator, which is a higher level application indicator. And what they will be moving to, they will be moving from just merely demonstrating competence, but now demonstrating higher level of competence, which we then simply refer to as HC, highly competent. So when you are busy out there, I want you to then stop and say that I am pursuing one or two HLA indicators, but is it worth it? I want you to challenge your team members. I want you to challenge yourself so that you don't consistently find yourself in the rabbit hole. Are we clear about that? That the majority of what we are going to give you is what you're going to need. Is this clear?
Yes, very
Great.
clear.
I love the fact that it's SEMA people raising their hands. I love it because I want this discipline to be instilled from day one. You are going to do some research, but stop and manage yourself. Stop and manage yourself. Is this a new direction being taken or a new approach? I'm asking because prior, we were expected to conduct this kind of research. Not so. Maybe talk to me about that. When you say this kind of research, which kind of research? Maybe let me just understand.
Okay, I mean that
Mhm.
we needed to do that analysis of a competitor company, get their integrated reports, do the financial statement analysis to see how the industry or the competitors are doing in order to then be able to, I don't know, put it in context or when you respond whereby you can use that in your responses if it was necessary, not saying that you had to use it, but it was information that we needed to have at hand or an understanding we needed to have. So are you saying now that we shouldn't look at that?
So for me, there's always a why. And that's why this is a following the session kind of task. There's always a why one needs to research. And I've always stressed this to the candidates to say, if you're going to research, what is your why? Because the reality is that you can never go through more than one annual report or an integrated report, better yet, in a space of 5 days while you're juggling the others. So for me, go back and say why and whether one will then say, did it give you an additional advantage? And that has always been so. And for me, it was always a matter of calling it structured research. That before you go out from the case study, ask yourself, Why am I going out? What is it that I need in order for me to better understand this company? And that is what I'll still want you to do. And in some cases, I want you to even Google stuff. And you'll see even in the background discussion that I was doing there, I even said that for me, I didn't know what is a tower crane. And now they're talking about there are some that assemble, there are some, like that was very confusing for me. Then if when I was researching, I needed to see it. Then I started seeing that, the tower is the one that is very long. I see it being sitting on a truck. It doesn't sit on the ground. Now this is starting to make sense to me. So that is how I want you to think about it, to say, what and why do you need to do that? So there will always be a need to do something like that. But the question is, why? Because if you don't have your why, you are going to research nonstop. There will not be a point where you're saying, I'm done, because you don't have a question you are looking to answer. So a person like Asen, when he comes and deliver what do you call it? Deliver accounting, he will tell you that I want you to go and look at competitor information. And you might say, but wait, Rendani told us not to. And he will say that I want you to look at the accounting policy, because that will help you to understand what can be the accounting policy for a company like VLA. And you might find that, it treats these things as leases. Did I think about leases here? It treats this thing as this. But there might also be a technical accounting issue that when you look at the accounting policy and application of the accounting, it therefore starts answering some of the questions you have. But it will not be a matter of, I want you to go and look at all the accounting policies of the competitors. Then the question will be why? What if now I understand their revenue model? What if I understand this? How does that help me? So that is the way that I want you to think about the further work of getting out from the case study. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Rendani?
Please.
When I read the case study, it was something that I picked up, and maybe it kind of adds to what you were saying.
Right, please share.
This is the cranes the VLA's business is driven by the construction industry and obviously high-rise buildings. Now I'm from Cape Town, and I know that there's a lot of construction of residential building, but it's not higher than four floors. So I kind of canceled that out. Then I looked to the city, where most in the city bowl where most of the high rises are, right? Especially in city of Cape Town, it's in the city itself. Now at COVID, a lot of the businesses went to remote working. And what happened was there was an issue with a lot of vacancies in the high-rise buildings. So they probably trying. I heard something to the effect that they were probably trying to. They are trying to re buildings into livable flats type of thing. Now, if you have a under vacancy of high-rise buildings, that obviously hits the business of VLA, who's wanting to expand to Cape Town. Is that the kind of thinking that you would want?
Yeah. So challenge the board. Because the board is not motivated, because the board says we still have confidence in South Africa long term. But then the challenges that they were presenting, I was like, where is this confidence coming from? Yes. And the other thing was, if you looked at their strategy, they told us that their strategy was to build up asset base. And I was like, but your asset utilization is going down. Like, how is this strategy relevant? Do you understand? So now you arrive here, they are saying that, should we continue to buy a new fleet? And what are you going to say? What did you say? That I hope you told them that, but I saw your asset utilization is low. Can you not move some of your existing fleet down to Durban rather than buy? Do you understand? Now you are really bringing your critical thinking and business acumen.
Mhm.
Do you see that you didn't need to do further research? And as I'm saying, the idea of you saying to me that there's been quite a lot of vacancy in, say, corporate offices, that for me is general knowledge, because you even told me about the fact that remote working has become a key thing or a big thing. But again, in the market, the board can come and say, we've received a McKinsey BCG report that told us that most of the companies say they want their people back. We've seen technology company in the US, we've seen majority companies in Europe going through that process. Is this not going to hit South Africa soon? Maybe that's where the board's confidence is coming from. But it's a debatable issue. That's what strategy and business acumen it's all about. It's not black and white. All clear about that? Right. So we are now saying in simplicity, what is business acumen all about? As simple words. If you ask AI, please explain business acumen, help me explain business acumen to my 6-7-year-old. How should I do that? Simply put, I'll say, son, you need to always be in context. This is a case study assessment. You need to always be in context. Do not dump. Do not think that issues hit companies in the same way. Do not always agree with what the board is saying, whereas the context is saying otherwise. Be in context. And because this is a higher level assessment, you cannot always believe. Because the same way you don't always believe in practice is the same way we want you not to believe in this particular case. That don't say that, but this business background is coming from the CFO, the CEO himself, herself. Don't do that. Because we know that CEOs move from one company to the other. We know that owners tend to be attached to their business. So there's always some bias that we need to be mindful of, regardless of where the information is coming from. We know that Steinhoff fell after another auditor came into the mix. So that means there were auditors that were saying, this thing is all good, this thing is all good, this thing is all good. Then one says, no, this thing is no longer all good. What changed? Just that someone looked at the same thing that someone over the years said it was fine and said, it's no longer fine to me. So we need to really express that. I'm never going to give you a case study where I'll expect you to agree with me 100%. If we agree 100%, then I didn't do my job properly. I want you to challenge me as much as I'll be challenging you. I want to hear why you don't agree with what I'm saying. Because if we are there, then we are really talking about you being a responsible business leader. And some of you, I know, you want people to send you emails because you are afraid that that person will change their mind and tomorrow say it's your idea. So this kind of thinking, I want you to bring it here as well. So don't divorce work experiences from what we're going to talk about here. That's what business acumen is all about. Be in context. Then number 2, which is very important, understand the business model. Understand the business model. Again, what is a business model? Simply put, it is how the company makes money. If someone asks you, how does this VLA company make money? Are you able to explain that clearly? What probably should you not leave out? One, I can say, don't leave out the customers. Don't leave out how VLA charges those customers or adds value to those customers? How does it make sure that it delivers value above its competitors? What are its cost structure? So if you are able to unpack those things for me, then we can align in terms of what is the business model of this? How does this company make money? You can't talk about making money if you don't talk about people. Who are the important people in VLA story? How does it make money? So they told you how they look at their property. And you should be saying, why are you telling me this? Because they want you to be aligned in terms of how they make money. So you are telling me these are your revenue stream. Oh, this is how you make money. Now they're telling you about the industry they serve. Oh, this is how you make money. So when will I stop making money? I'm simply saying, when will this business model not make sense? Bevan has just shared one point with us that the construction industry, they construct for urbanization. But do you see, now you are criticizing that business model. That's what SAICA said to the candidates last year. Criticize the business model of VLA. That is the task. So you needed to say, guys, you are in the construction industry. I don't think it's a good idea. Guys, you don't serve the engineering market, but this is the market that is booming. Guys, I see that your revenue stream is so complicated. You charge even for this thing. This is a problem. Guys, I see that you are targeting urbanization. That's what they expected candidates last year to do. And imagine, they didn't need to do anything. They just needed to bring their understanding of the case study. Do you understand? What is the expectation? Be intimately involved with this background. Think about it every day. Listen to it in your car. Listen to it in the taxi. Think like, I don't know how to, but do you understand what I'm talking about? Like, don't take it for granted. You're going to have a number of speakers throughout the year. And one of the things that our speakers consistently say is that read your PRI every morning. I used to think that was a weird advice. But then I realized that even during my preparation of the case study, we become so ingrained in the detail, what to include, what to leave in, what to remove, and all these things. And the way we then challenge each other during the preparation, it is always about that. We need to be ingrained into the detail. Don't take it for granted. Don't be too busy for your PRI, your background. You can't be too busy for it. And that's why I'm saying that go to work with it. Come back from work. If you drive to work, even better. Minimum travel time is 2 hours. You will have achieved a lot just listening and immersing yourself in it. But don't let there be a level of detail that catches you by surprise. That is that.
Question, Brendan.
Sure.
You say you must criticize the business model. Are you criticizing this against the strategy?
That was the task. I was giving an example of what we saw. But what I'm saying is, for me, it is to understand and critically analyze it for its positives and for its negatives. So remember that the strategy will be built on the business model.
Okay, so what was required there was to criticize the business model versus the strategy.
And no, so the strategy was not the issue there. It was the business model, how they run their business. Like VLA, think about VLA. Like, how does VLA run its business? So they have those strategies, these 5 strategies they've told you about. That will be a different task. But here I'm saying, really, this is you. This is where you make your money. This is how you make your money. This is its cost. In other words, do you feel that it's optimized?
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
I hear you. Hear you, thanks.
So that's the business model. Then the other, which then comes back to...
Sorry,
Chico,
Rondani, before
yes,
you
yes, sorry.
move on, sorry. I'm confused about your comment about listening to the PRI on your way to on your commute. Like, do they give us a video version as well? Or I'm confused about that part.
So candidates used to do it. Like this guy told me he does it. Does anyone know how to do it?
No.
No, there was this student, Bandila, I can remember him by name. He was like, I do this. Like, he can do it. We are in the age of technology. Someone should know here. Does anyone know? I
know there
think
is
someone-
software to read a PDF.
Is that what he meant? I was like,
I
this is
don't know.
quite brilliant. I'll
Some of
ask
the
him.
phones have that option of reading a message out loud. So if you open a document, then you click on the text and you'll say, read it out loud. I know
Okay.
there was someone I know who was what do you call it? He could not see. I don't want to say it in a bad way, but his phone that he was using, it was an iPhone. He could still chat to you, so he just taps on the phone and then it reads the message. Then he takes and speaks, and then it types out what he's saying, and then he sends. So he was still able to use a phone to communicate with people, even though he was visually impaired. Yes, let me say it that way. So some of the phones can do that.
Yeah, I know. I know I can make even word read documents, but I am thinking about phone. I'll ask him. I still have connection to him. But for me, it'll be a good idea. But he was even advising other candidates some time, but it was about 2-3 years ago. But
I think
the
iPhone
technology has
users
advanced.
already have that.
Or the fancy
iPhone users
people.
are sorted.
The fancy people, I think, yes. My 5-year-old can do that. Imagine. You see now. You need to then connect with your kids. But yeah, yes, the iPhone people. All right. Next, it's understanding the topical issues. And Peter, as well as Bevan, we're really hitting on that to say, when should I go out? Then Bevan said, yeah, for me, when I read this, I thought about one of the things that was never said in the case study about the working from home trends. That is a topical issue. Will you agree? Did everyone think about that? Will you agree with that? Did someone else think about that as they were going through this? Or any other topical issue that you thought about?
So I thought about the issue of infrastructure that is driven by government. There's a lot of focus of both social and business infrastructure. So I thought that's one of the things VLA was seeing opportunities and having sort of a belief in the South African economy. But of course, that was raised, the issue of corruption. And then I was thinking about the GDP to our debt, which is about 70%. How is the government gonna be driving that infrastructure? I know companies like PPSA and so forth, they are pumping money into that. Those were a few things I thought of.
All right, sure. There are now conversations about building more universities in South Africa, given what we are seeing in the numbers. So there are quite a lot in terms of what you can bring about topical issues. But the idea, again, is the ones that need to move the needle for VLA. In other words, they need to talk about the long-term viability of their business. So yes, there are always opportunities, but do we really believe that these are the ones that can move the needle for VLA? These are the ones that can drive its success story going forward. We like the 2010 World Cup that they mentioned here, everyone knows that it was a big thing for South Africa. It was. Are there other key events that are like that that could then move the needle for VLA? Then the third or the fourth thing rather, it's sometimes, and now let's clarify this and how SAICA thinks about it. So when you read SAICA's documents, they think about, at least in the old regime, they think about strategy as a technical discipline. Now, why do I say that? So when they say there is a technical element, they are saying that as much as someone can be able to demonstrate business acumen without necessarily needing to open IFRS, without necessarily needing to open ISA tax legislation, there is some pre-study that can be expected. And what could be that pre-study? That could be to revise your understanding of the technical models. That understanding can help you. So that's why we say technical competence area that usually overlap when evaluating business acumen strategy comes on top. Then ethical leadership, because most of the time when people cross the line, when people misstep, it's because they're busy making decisions. And when I say misstep, probably I just forgot about my customer. And when I forgot about my customer, I'm really seeing my customer as a revenue generating opportunity rather than recognizing my customer as an individual customer, a person with their own challenges that my product needs to help resolve. So as a business, we are always needing to be mindful that in our decision making, are we being ethical leaders? Because sometimes it could be that I really want this contract. And the person is saying that, no, I see you are passionate about doing this thing. There is a significant opportunity for you to be involved, but please, my brother, help me. Then I could say that, yeah, it's not that I'm paying because I really want to help those things. So in making decisions, sometimes it's so easy to overstep into a questionable area. Sometimes it is the sense that the rand and cents or the ZiG and other currencies that drive our thinking rather than the people. So here what we are saying is when you make decision, there are other technical models like the King 4 that talks about inclusivity or stakeholder inclusivity thinking. That says, think about your community, think about your customers, think about your employees. There's the 6 capital model that will tell you that you need to drive and manage your human capital, your social capital, your relationships, that there is something that I can do that can enhance me but destroy the relationship I've got with you. So that is where we are talking about business acumen combined or integrating with ethical leadership. I could be a member of a board and there is an opportunity that is available. I start my own company. I give my sister shares. I give my wife shares. And I said, please submit a bid. Make sure it hits here and I don't disclose my interest. You will need to then say, but Renali, there are governance requirements for you to legally disclose that interest. But do you see when we say technical, it's now being integrated. So technical will be relevant in demonstrating the business acumen because most of the time when you are busy making a decision and you are busy thinking about the pros and cons, you need to stop and say, but hold on. I might be thinking here that I'm to make what? I'm to make a bid for distressed assets, but I might see it as an opportunity to say, since that person is distressed, I need to lowball the offer. I need to bid at the lowest possible offer, knowing that that guy doesn't have plan B. Then is that not questionable leadership? So that is what we are talking about here, that do not, when you're busy demonstrating business acumen, divorce your ethical responsibility. I see a hand.
Okay, one of the things I just forgot to mention, I was thinking, these guys could these guys be actually getting an unfair advantage over contracts? Is it the reason that they are confident that they will make it when you see the environment in South Africa? Don't know whether I was overreaching because I saw corruption and then I was looking at the environment and then I was thinking, could it be? Do they have an unfair advantage if they are so confident and then there's the negatives are more than positives in the whole thing?
Yeah, no. For me, that's not far-fetched at this point. It would be a nice to put and to be mindful of. But to raise it as challenging the board without more information, that could now be an overreach. Maybe there's a task, Linda, that you're going to encounter where those things are being further explored. You understand? So it could be that. But keep it at the back of your mind. Tara?
Oh, thank you. Morning, Dandani, morning, team. Just to support what Linda is saying, on the barriers of entry, they mentioned something like winning tower crane contracts requires the right people, requires knowing the right people, and having a good safety track record. But my thing was the right people. What do they mean about that? Like, do they know the right people, and what do they do with the right people?
So worth flagging. Critical reading. You read a statement, but you translated it as an ethical leadership for the inquiry. That's what we are talking about. Risk management, another discipline. You will not necessarily, unless it's triggered, need to go to the level of enterprise risk management, because that's the technical behind it. So if it's really triggered, when now they say that, no, the company is now thinking about establishing an enterprise risk management approach for the entity, that's a trigger. But if it is just a general issue, when you are thinking about business acumen, you cannot divorce it from your skeptical thinking mind. What do I mean? Whenever you are seeing a good thing, see or try to see what could go wrong with it. Always. That skepticism is the one that I want you to keep in mind. Whenever I see a good thing, what could be the bad thing about it? Financial management, business acumen, traditionally we find it well integrated in decisions like we've decided to buy a company. We've decided to buy new equipment. But have you done an NPV analysis? And I hope you ask the board about that as well, that which one will be more financially lucrative? Because that's what finance is all about. It's all about generating value. So in my decision-making processes, I should not forget that we need to be mindful about creating financial value for our stakeholder, especially equity stakeholders, as well as debt holders. So we are acquiring another company, mergers and acquisition could be some of the consideration. Is this really aligned to our strategy? Then management, decision making and control. It's where now we start looking at asset utilizations. We start thinking about other alternatives of bringing our assets to Durban, the cost of bringing the people to operate those, are there enough skills we can procure from Durban, or do we now need to start an office? What are the relevant costs of opening an office, and all those things? But business acumen, it will never be a situation of a task where we are saying, this task, we just want you to demonstrate business acumen. No, there will be a relationship between the technical. Does that make sense? So there will always be a relationship with the technical. And let's take our break here. It's been a long morning.
Just a second, management decision and control.
Yeah.
Will business acumen fall under that?
Yeah, so like for instance, one could be, should we now sell some of the crates, right? Maybe now seeing that the utilization is low. Then you could do some calculation. What are the relevant costs? What will we save? Do we need to let go of some people? You have done that. But then I would say that in addition to the financials, what are the other factors that you need to be mindful of?
Okay, thanks.
Do you understand?
Good.
Make sense?
Just thanks.
Great. Right. Indeed, it has been a long morning. My time is 10:37, 23 minutes. Can we be back at 11? 11 o'clock. Thank you.